let's suppose I have an on-premise environment. In the on-premise environment, I have a ComServe and I have a media agent as well. Okay, so I have a ComServe, I have a media agent. Now, in the Azure, I have one subscription that I have purchased. Inside that subscription, I have multiple VMs. In one reason, I have, let's suppose, two VMs or three VMs or five VMs or hundreds of VM. In another reason, I also have lot other VMs which are available. Now, all these VMs are in a different reason, different network, but they are still under the same subscription. Okay. Now the question comes up, if we are very much new to the Azure, that what is a subscription? Okay, so we will talk about from the basics for the Azure. Okay, so when you create any account on a Azure portal, when you create any account, might be you're creating a free account or might be you are creating a paid account for your company or your infrastructure, whatever it is. So when you create a account using any email ID, then there is the tenant account. Like you will be there will be one account that will be created and you will be the tenant, or you can say you will be the owner of that account. That email ID using which you have created the account, you will be the owner for that particular account. Now, once you create an account, Azure will actually create a active directory for you, on your email ID, like having the your email ID, having the as a global admin for that particular active directory, and it will be having a domain as well, which refers to the email ID, that the email ID that you are using, and then it will add on microsoft.com as well in the end. Okay, so there is a dedicated active directory that will be created by the Microsoft for you as soon as you create a Azure account using any email ID. Okay, now once you have created the account, that doesn't mean that you will be start getting charged by the Microsoft. No, for that one you have to create subscription. So subscription is, you can say, kind of a billing bucket. You can, in a single tenant, you can have a multiple subscription or you can have a single subscription. So the billing will always comes on the subscription. Okay, it will become, the billing will be generated per subscription, that inside the subscription this is how much charge has been done per month. And when you create any resource, when I say resources, might be a VM, might be a storage account, or any other Microsoft service that you are going to create, every service should be belong or should be created under some subscription. Not every, but most of them will be created under some subscription. Okay, your billing or your cost or your charging will be done on the subscription level. So if there is a VM1 that has been created under the subscription 1 and VM2 has been created under the subscription 2, then the VM2 charges will be added to subscription 2 and the VM1 charges will be added to the subscription 1. So that means you can say it's kind of a billing. It's a billing format. How the Azure keep the billings, a track of the billing. It's actually done on the per subscription basis. So you, in a single tenant, you can have a multiple subscription or you can have a single subscription. For example, in this scenario, we have created, or we have only one subscription. Now, when it comes to the backup configuration for a Commvault, in Commvault, you have to create a client for per subscription. That means if you want to back up the VMs from the multiple subscription, in that case, you have to create a multiple clients for that, for backing up the Azure VMs. So if you have a 10 subscriptions and you want to back up the VMs from those 10 subscriptions, then you have to create the 10 clients, the pseudo clients inside the Commvault client computer that we will see in the coming up sessions, like coming up minutes, that how you can actually create the pseudo client using the subscription. Now, let's suppose in a single subscription, I have a VMs which has been spread across the multiple region. They have their own networking. Now, as per the best practices, as we know, like you must have seen my other video for the for the VMware backup. So VSA is still the agent that will be used for backing up any kind of virtualized environment. So even in the Azure, we will be using the VSA agent. Now the question arises where the VSA agent should be installed. As per the best practices, to get the best performance for your backups, the proxy or the VSA should always be installed inside one of the VM in your cloud. Now, how, like what is the best practice is how many proxy that I should have. So you should have a proxy, one proxy per region. Okay, let's suppose if there is a region called East US in the Azure, in the East, for backing up the VMs of the East US, I will be having one proxy. For backing up the VM of the West US, I will be placing the one proxy over there. Okay, now size of these proxy, individual proxy, will totally depend upon the number of VMs that you are trying to back up. But for a best practices, or if you want to select a start or want to start with a minimum size of this VM for your proxy, then it should be 4 GB RAM and at least 4 CPU cores with 100 GB of disk space. That should be the at least size of your this proxy, the VSA proxy. Now later on, if the number of VMs are increasing, or even backups are running slow because of the proxy getting overutilized, you can procure more proxies in the same region, or you can increase or resize this particular proxy because it's a cloud and you can resize your VM at any particular day. So you can install the VSA on the Windows machine, Linux machine, as per your choice. Now, for this is the ideal situation where I have a ComServe and the media agent placed in the on-premises, and I have the VM proxies and I want to back up these VMs. So this is how we are going to have the VSA proxy installed on the subscription, on the per region. Now your on-premise and your Azure cloud will be connected through the express route or the VPN gateway. They should be connected, connectivity between your on-premise and your Azure. Then only you will be able to configure the backup of these particular VMs inside your console. Now, one more thing. In this scenario, I have considered, like in this diagram I have shown you, this media agent is lying on-premise. That means when these proxies will be reading the data from the VMs, okay, when these proxies will be reading the data from the VMs, that data will be sent out of this Azure to this media agent, and media agent will write down that backup on some local disk library or the tape library, which is against the best practices. I will not do that, because I will try to have a media agent and the library configured within the cloud. How to configure the cloud library, there is already a video link for that one. You can refer to that one, how you can configure a cloud library. But I will always, if I'm trying to back up the cloud data, I will always try to back up the data within the cloud. Okay. The first reason is of the performance, of course, because I'm going to bring all the data, entire data from the cloud to my on-premise server on this connectivity. So I'm not sure even what kind of connectivity or what kind of bandwidth that I have. I will be bringing up that data over here. So even the backups will be slow. And if you want to perform a restoration, that restoration, the data will flow from on-premise to cloud. So it is not recommended. Now, second disadvantage is cost. If you will be running your if you will be taking out the data from the Azure in cloud, there is always a charge when you take out the data from the cloud. So right now all the VMs and everything, their data will be taken out from the Azure and will be bringed up locally on premise. So there will be a very heavy charge that I'm going to pay for bringing out the data. So it's around 8 rupees per GB that Azure charges for this one. Or you can say for the 100 GB, they're gonna charge 800 Indian rupees or something like this. So for that is a reason. These are the two reasons why I will not have a media agent on premise for backing up the VMs of your cloud. So as per the best practices, what I will do is I can have a ComServe still on the on premise, but if I want to back up the VMs in the cloud, I should have the media agent lying within the cloud. So this is the diagram. If you will look at this diagram will give you the better picture. What I'm trying to say, that you should have a media agent and library proxy configured within your infrastructure. So you can have a single proxy, or you can have a multiple proxy as per the best practices, like one proxy per region. Media agent also, you can have a into the per region, you can have a one media agent, because if I will be traveling the data from the West US to the East US, though it will be on the Azure backbone network, but still it will be taking up a little time. So I can have to get the best performance, I can have a media agent and proxy local to every region. Whereas a ComServe can be a centralized ComServe lying on the on-premise or lying on one of the region in the cloud. Okay, so that is not an issue. So if you are having the infrastructure on the premises and in the cloud, then the ComServe can be centralized. You can plan in this way that you can have a ComServe, active ComServe on premise, then the DR ComServe using the live sync you can configure on your cloud. Then you can have a few media agent which are backing up the data from the on premise, and then you can have few media agent in the cloud which are backing up these particular VM locally within the cloud. Okay, so right now guys, what we're going to do is we are going to deploy a scenario where we are we are having the VSA and media agent and the ComServe lying on premises. Even I have taken out the VSA on the on premise. See, it's not at all according to the best practices, but what I want to tell you over through this particular implementation is that it is not mandatory to have a VSA in the cloud. Okay, you can have a VSA as well in the cloud if you have this connectivity available. You can have a media agent over here, you have the ComServe over here. This is what I'm going to deploy right now. But of course, as we have discussed, it does not make any sense to bring up your data from the cloud to on-premise. So it should be always your media agent lying in the cloud. Okay, and your VSA also lying in the cloud, the proxy lying in the cloud. So why I'm doing this one, just to show you that this connectivity is very much possible. I will be still able to detect all these VMs which I have running in the cloud. Okay, using the VSA that I have. So going back to my infrastructure, this is a ComServe that I have. So just let me log back to this one. Okay, so this is a server that I have. So this is a com server, and this is a physical server that I have on premise. So this server is acting as a com server. Server is acting as a media agent as well, and this server is also acting as the what you can say as a VSA proxy. So you can see I have already added the backup for the ESX host, and I have already backing up the NAS device. So it's an on-premise machine which is lying as of now. So what I will do is I will configure a backup for my cloud environment. So for that one, from this particular physical server, I have already connected a VPN connectivity. I already have a VPN connectivity. My this on-premise machine is connected to point to site using the point to site VPN to the cloud, to the Azure. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to add that cloud environment inside my this particular Commvault console. So for that one, see, we require a lot of we will requiring few information. So what all information we required for adding up the Azure over here, what you will do is you will say new client, and new client. In the virtualization, you will click on Microsoft Azure. Now once you click on Microsoft Azure, you can see that it is asking you the information like client name, subscription ID. As I have already told you, for every subscription you have to add one what you can say you have to add one client over here. So the subscription for which you are trying to add over here, their ID will be should be pasted over there. I will tell you how to extract the subscription ID. Then the tenant ID, of course, it will be the common for all the subscription that you have. Then the application ID and the application password, and then you will add the proxy. Now the question comes if we know what is a subscription ID. I even told you that when you create an account on the Azure, there is a tenant, that there is an account, Azure account that has been created, which is called as a tenant, and that account has the ID which is called as a tenant ID. Okay, so that you can get it. Now what is application ID and application password? So since this Commvault will be working as a third party application for Commvault, so for the Azure, sorry, so I need to provide the access to my Azure to this Commvault. Like Commvault should able to access my Azure environment, so I have to provide some username and password. Now I like Commvault will be should be authenticate to the Azure. How ComServe will be going to authenticate to the Azure is your environment? That is actually using the application ID. Okay, application ID and application password. So it is nothing in the Azure. We create a kind of a what you can say a access. This application access will be created. So in that application, like it's kind of a, see, it's not exactly the user that we are creating. It's kind of an application, or you can say it's kind of a virtual or logical user that you are creating, but it's not a user. Just to have things in a very simple way, I'm trying to put the things in a very simple way. So you will try to create a logical user, and then you will assign the permission to that particular logical user, user that these are the operations that you can perform. And once you have assigned that we are going to do in the Azure. First thing, all these application ID logical user that you are going to create, you're going to create in Azure. Once the logical user has been created within the Azure, you will assign the permission that what exactly all tasks that particular user can perform. Then you will generate a password. Once the password has been generated, then you will use that the logical user, it will have its ID, which is called application ID, and then it will having the password that has been generated, you will put over there, and then you will be able to add it as a then you will add the VSA proxy over here that will connect to the to your Azure infrastructure. And then you will add over here, and then you just click on OK, and the client will be added. On the top, you can give any client name by which you want to see. So I will always try to put the name of my in a such a way that even it represents the subscription. Okay, so that I'm able to, if I have a multiple subscription, I have added a multiple client, so I'm able to identify that this particular client is for which backing up the VMs of which particular subscription. So let's suppose if I put in the client name, let me put as a test Azure subscription one. Let's suppose this is the name of the subscription. This is a client name that I have given. Now I have to put the subscription ID. Now what I will do is I will go to my Azure portal. In the Azure portal, I will try to get the subscription ID. Now, so to get the subscription ID, what I have to do is I will click on home, and on the top, you will type subscription. Okay. Once you click on subscription, there will be a key that is coming up over here with the name subscription. You can click on this particular key, subscriptions. Once you click on this particular subscription, a new window will open in which you will be able to see your subscription ID and all the subscription plus their ID. So let's click on the subscription. Once you click on the subscription, you will be able to see all the details. So I clicked on subscription. So as soon as you will click on subscription, you will be able to see your subscriptions coming up over here. So you can see as if now it's showing the subscription name is a free trial that I have created. So under the free trial, there is one more tab with the name subscription ID. So over here, you will be able to see all the subscription ID that you have. You can simply click on that one. You can select that one, the subscription ID from here, and you can paste in your infrastructure. So let's copy this subscription ID, and then we will copy it to your uh, copy on your Commvault client edition. So we will do it later on. First, we'll move to the second point. That is, we have to find out even the tenant ID. So we need to get the tenant ID as well. So to get the tenant ID, what you have to do is you have to again go to your portal. So you will go to the Azure portal, the for which you are trying to configure the backup. In the Azure portal, try type Azure Active Directory. Okay, so you will click on you will get something called Azure Active Directory over here. You can see the sign. You will click on the Azure Active Directory. Once you click on the Azure Active Directory, you will be able to see a overview coming up over here. And in this one, on this window, you can see there is something coming up with the name tenant ID, and there is some number is coming up. So you can copy this one. This is what your tenant ID is. So you will go over there back to your Commvault console. In the Commvault console, in the content tenant ID, you will just control V. So you will get the tenant ID. Now I need to get the application ID and application password. So first I need to create one logical user that I've been talking about, or I can say application ID. I need to create kind of a application. We call this an application. So for creating the application in the Azure directory itself, there is something called app registration over here. So what you will do is you will click on this app registration. Once you click on this app registration, if there is any app that you have created, you will be able to see over here. For the new app creation, you will say new registration. So once you click on new registration, you give the name to your application. It's a logical user that you can say give name to the any name to this one. So let me give the name as CV. That is combo CV backup. So let me give that name as a CV backup. From the supported account type, you can select any of the first three options. I will just select the third, okay, which says accounts in any organization directory, and the personal Microsoft account should be able to use it. Now, after that, there is something called redirect URI optional, URL, which is optional. So in the web, you can provide even the even the HTTPS URL can be assigned to this one. If it's optional, if you don't want to assign it, you can skip it, but you can assign any URL to this one. So I will say HTTPS colon slash slash, and let me give the name as CV backup only. Okay, so this is what the name of the logical user I have given. So it's not something like URL that you have to get it from somewhere. No, you can put it anything of your choice. It just should be HTTPS format. So you can put of your choice any name for that URL. Even that URL will refer to this application, right? That's what it means. So I will just simply click on register. So once you click on register, you will be seeing one application coming up over here. Okay, so one application will be created in my tenant ID, in my tenant. So if I go to the default directory again, I can see two applications under the application, two applications. CV backup is coming up. So I will say CV backup. I will select the CV backup. Once you select the CV backup, after that, there is something coming up on the left hand side. There is something coming up with the name API permission. You will click on API permission. Once you click on API permission, you can see right now the permission it has. So I will add more permission to it. So I will say add permission. It's right now has a read permission only. So I will select Azure service management, which says access to the much of the functionality available through the Azure portal. Like this application will be able to access all the things which is available through the portal. So I will say Azure service management. This is what you need to select. And once you click on that one, there will be something coming up, user underscore impersonation, access Azure service management as an organization user. I will say yes. So you will say add permission. Once you click on add permission, you will be able to see that permission coming up reflecting over here on your CV backup application, logical application that you have created, or the logical user that you are creating, in short, in simple word or in the layman language. Okay, after that you will go to the certificate and secrets, in which you will be generating the password for this application or for this logical user. So you will go to the certificate and secrets. In the certificate and secrets, you have something called new client secret. So you will say new client secret. You can give the description to this particular password that you are generating. So I can say again for the CV backup, and for how long that password will be valid. It will be valid for a year, 2 year, or it should expire never. So whatever term that you select, after that you need to generate this password again. Your backup will stop working after that particular period of time. So let's suppose I want to create it for 2 years. So I will say add for the 2 years. So there will be one password that will be generated for this application. You can see the password that has been generated over there. Guys, do not try to copy this one, because anyhow I'm going to delete this application. So yes, so this is a password that has been generated. I will just copy this password as if now. I will just copy this one. This is the application password that you got. So I will go back to the Commvault over here, and in the application password, I will just put this one. Okay, I put the application password. Now, once you have put the application password, then after that, I will get the application ID. Now, from where I can get the application ID, you will again click on CV backup. Like you can click on overview. In the overview, you will be able to see something called application ID of CV backup. You can copy this one. Okay, you can copy this one. You will put over here. Okay, but till now, I have not assigned all the permission to the CV backup. There is one more permission that I need to assign, that is on the subscription. Okay, what I have to do is I have to go to the home. In the home on the top, I will just search for the subscription. Okay, you will click on subscription. As soon as you click on subscription, this window will open. Okay, this is how your window will look like. You will select the subscription for which you are trying to take a backup. So if you have a multiple subscription, this step that I'm going to perform now, you have to repeat for every subscription, to make sure that this application, if the same application ID you want should be able to, using that one, you should able to take a backup of all the subscription VMs, then you have to perform this step on all the subscription. Otherwise, if you're trying to back up the VM of some specific subscription, in that case, you have to just repeat this step on that specific subscription only. So what I will do is I will click on this subscription. Once you click on this subscription, a new window will open. So once you click on that free, once you click on this subscription, this window will open. where you will be seeing all the details of your subscription. Like you can see all the things where the consumption is going on and all that. You can see the detail. Now what you have to do is you have to assign the access of that particular application ID that you have created, or a logical user that you have created on the subscription. So for that one, you will go to the access control IAM. Once you go to the access control IAM, in that one, what you have to do is you have to click on add. Now, once you click on add, you have to click on add role management. Once you click on add role management, in the role, you have to select the contributor role. Remember that. Select the contributor role. In the assign access to, let it be by default. In this one, you will be able to see your application ID that you have created, the application name that you have created with the name CV Backup. Select that and click on save. Now you have assigned the role, like you have assigned the permission to your application on the subscription as well. First, you created the application, you assign the permission. First, the permission that we have assigned earlier on was for the Azure tenant. And then once you have assigned for the tenant, then after you have to assign the permission on the specific, what you can say, subscription. So if you have a multiple subscription, you have to repeat this specific step on all the subscription in that particular tenant. Now, once you have given all that information, that will be more than enough. I will copy paste the subscription ID. Before that one, if I can, like before I can even copy the subscription ID, what I will do is I will add the proxy over here, which is the on-premise proxy only. So I will just click on add. Once I will click on add, I will see all the list of proxies coming up. So guys, we'll just click on add, and we will be able to see the server which has the VSA installed. So guys, uh, what I did is, like, I took a break in between and I am doing it on this separate Commvault now, because unfortunately I lost the connection to my that physical server, but I have the another server as well available. So on that I'm doing it, which is the exact same scenario. So this is a server on which I have installed the VSA in that case. So I will select the server, the VSA proxy, which is their on-premise proxy that for me. So I will select the CS1 over here. Once you select the CS1, that's it. I have already told you how to get the subscription ID, that you can copy the subscription ID and paste over here and just click on OK. Now, once you click on OK, you will be able to see one client with the name test as your sub one. So I'm going to uh, hide that part where I'm going to put the subscription ID, but you know how to get the subscription ID, and you can put your own subscription ID for which you are trying to take backup, whose VM you are trying to backup. So I'll put the subscription ID and click on OK. And after that, you will be able to see one client getting added over here in my client computer list with the name test as your sub one. So let's do it. So you can see that it hardly took 3 to 4 seconds. Once I put the subscription ID and click on OK, now you can see there is one pseudo client that has been added in the background in my client computer list with the name test is your sub one. So this is what I'm talking about. So when you have a multiple subscription, you have to add multiple clients over here. Okay, per subscription, one client, one pseudo client will be created. So this one I have created for my specific subscription. So if you will expand this particular client, you will be able to see the virtual server. You will expand the virtual server. You will see the resource manager. Once you expand the resource manager, default backup set, and on the subclient, you will be able to see the default subclient. You will right click on the subclient and say properties. Now, once you click on properties, you will go to the content. In the content right now, all VMs are getting backed up. So you will click on browse. And once you click on browse, you will be able to see all your VMs from the cloud. In the cloud, these are the VMs that I have. So if you select resource group, it is showing you all the resource group that you have created inside the subscription. Resource group is nothing but a logical grouping of your resources that you create in the Azure. So if I want to see what VMs I have, so inside this resource manager, I have a VM 11. In the West resource group, I have a VM 01, VM 06. In this way, I will be able to see all the VMs according to the resource wise. If you want to see the just the VMs without resource groups, like you don't care in which resource group they are lying, you just want to see the VMs. So you can see all the VMs are coming up over here. All the VMs you can see over there.
Now after that, if you will go to the storage, you will go to the region, it will show you the VMs according to the reason. These are the reasons, all the reasons that Azure has. So it's not necessary that you will be having the VMs in every region, of course. So I know I have a VM in the East US. You can see these are the VM that I have in the East US. In the East US too, I have one VM. Then I will be having the few VMs in the other regions as well. For example, if I try to see the West US, I don't have anything. In the West US too, yes, I have the VMs. So in this way, it will show you according to the region wise. Okay. And you can say it will show you even the tags wise if you have created the tags for your VMs and all that. So I will just keep it to simple VMs. I will go to the VMs. You can select the any specific VM that you want to back up. You can select those VM. You can click on OK, and that's it. You're ready to go to back up the VMs in the storage device. You can select the storage policy that you want to use it and all that. So right now this scenario will bring up the backup back to my own premises, which is not according to the best practices. I will not do it. I will have a media agent inside the cloud, and I will have a library configured inside the cloud taking the backup locally. Remember that getting out the data from the Azure is very costly. Now, even just now, I have told you, like I have shown you in this one, that I have connected all these things. Like if you will click on OK, your subclient is ready to backup. You can right click and start taking out the backup of your VMs. Okay. Now, just to tell you one more thing, in this scenario where you have the VSA proxy lying over here on the premise, if there is a firewall or something, there is nothing specific that you need to configure on your routing or something like this. There is nothing need to be configured. Nothing means nothing. There is no URL that you need to add into the exception or something like this. No, automatically as soon as you add the sudo client, you put the VSA machine, it will start interacting with all these VMs. You will be able to take the backup of the VMs as long as you have this connectivity available between the on-premise and the cloud. Okay. So guys, these are the few best practices that you have to keep in mind. This is how you're going to configure the backup for the Azure VMs, how you can include them into the backup. We have seen even the best practices around the proxy, that for the VSA proxy where it should be kept, how many VSA proxy we should have the per, and according to best practices they should be kept per region. And then the media agent and library should also be there in the cloud itself according to the best practices, because taking out the data from the cloud is costlier. Okay, so these are the this is a process that you can follow in order to configure the backup for the Azure VMs using the Commvault. Okay, so thank you guys. Do subscribe to my channel. Stay tuned. You will be getting a lot more videos in future related to the automation and stuff like related to the cloud and all that. Okay, guys. Thank you so much. Till then, bye bye.